do what thou wilt. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of 7 Minutes with the Magus, featuring your host, Omega Logion, Magus of the Eon of Maat. In this episode, we're going to talk about one of the most important holy books in our canon, called Liber LUXORAT. This was received by me from my holy guardian angel about 5 months after the previous holy book we studied in the last episode, the Book of the Wandering Stars. In that book, it gave a foreshadowing of the book to come, in a passage that I didn't read to you then, but I will read to you now. Only your holy symbol depicts the crossing over and regeneration in the precise terms necessary. The unicursal hexagram comes close and is a harbinger of the next step on the staircase of ages. In that hexagram is ARARITA. In the septagram is LUXORAT. Now, at the time, I didn't know what LUXORAT meant, but I did know that ARARITA and its 7 letters are often arrayed on a unicursal hexagram. ARARITA are the letters of an acronym or notaricon of the Hebrew phrase talking about the unity of God. And Crowley wrote a book called Liber ARARITA, which has 7 chapters dedicated to the 7 planets and talks about the spheres on the tree of life, the kelipot or shelves of the spheres of the tree, and a balancing of opposites that ultimately results in the holy and formless fire kadosh, which purifies everything and returns it to unity. Now, Amun has provided us with an updated version of Liber ARARITA in Liber LUXORAT, which has the same general structure. It's got 7 chapters, each one dedicated to a different planet, and it's got 98 verses, 14 verses in each chapter. And the verses are numbered from 0 to 13. This was one of only 2 holy books I channeled that actually insisted that the verse numbers be included. What's interesting about those verses is that the 38th verse is blank. There are no words. Before it are 37 verses. After it are 60 verses. 37 and 60 are in golden ratio to each other. So this point that's blank is the golden ratio point of the whole book. Now, in a later episode, we're going to associate 97 of the verses of this book with the 97 cards of the Minkyati Tarot, a fascinating subject which we'll get into in a later episode. But for now, and for our purposes, we want to understand Liber LUXORAT as the journey of the planets through the numbers from 0 to 13. This is done by using the planetary trigram and connecting it with the 0 trigram, the 1 trigram, the 2 trigram, and so on, all the way up to the 13 trigram. Now, something really interesting happens when you do that. The total of all the trigrams has an antigram whose differential is 9409, which is 97 times 97. That's really fascinating that the progression of the planetary trigrams through the numbers from 0 to 13 will result in the name of Amun squared. Now, we take a look at those trigrams and chapters. We can also break them down into a sort of synopsis of each of the 7 chapters based on the trigrams that go through them. So I'm going to give you a phrase whose gematria multiplied by 7 is the sum of the trigrams of that chapter. So chapter 1 is Luna, a celebration of the hidden coming into view. Chapter 2 is Mars, replenish thy veins from the chalice of heaven. Chapter 3 is Jupiter, I have cast off the unworthy and the unfit. Chapter 4 is Venus, thou shalt be learned in the ways of love. Chapter 5 is Saturn, in the end he shall offer up the vast sacrifice. Chapter 6 is Saul, do thy will, do that, and no other shall say nay. And finally, chapter 7 is Mercury. Tears of joy are the universal solvent. So this is one way that we can capture the activity of what's going on in these 7 chapters. I will read you a few verses from it so that you get an idea of the flavor of the book. The very first verse of the book is a single word, unity. Benevolent is the mercy of the all-knowing one in the mist of the day. Great is the cow of heaven, the giver of life and the fructifying earth. Neglect not her attendance. At this nexus everything flows, and the river is never the same thing twice, for it is not a thing, but an action. Let the balance find you, and the cage will transform into the bars of a hymn to the glory of the ineffable power. When the egg is laid, the mother will leave the nest to the protection of the father. In the middle wilt thou find the pearl of great price that has fallen from her triple strand and landed in thy mouth. Balanced by shadow, the mother of the light, Nephthys, the glorious one of Re. Now to the unity resolved, that each opposite finds its counterpart, each ocean finds its shore. They define each other by their presence. They refine the rapture of the lovers. And then the book concludes, behold, in thy coming and going is grandeur. Love under will, peace within balance, joy within sorrow, toil within freedom. In the sevenfold regimen, consummate alchemy, profligate ecstasy, infinite majesty, ultimate unity. And so the book ends where it began. And so we will end this episode, and we'll take up this subject in a future one. Until then, love is the law.